Good afternoon, everyone. So you've heard about the new analytics dashboard, how reports in GovHub Analytics can help you with your site decisions, the importance of organizing content and information architecture, and how to create and use web forms for much more than just contact information. Now let's talk about how we can help you put that into practice with our training program. My name is Yen Tang. I'm the Director of Outreach for Digital Services Georgia. My goal is to help you succeed with your digital content. I'd like to talk today about success in terms of learning and what that means when you're successful and what that means when we're successful at helping you learn. I'll introduce the Digital Academy. Some of you may know that by a different name. We're excited to relaunch this certification course. There's a new learning management system that will change a few ways that we offer our training courses, and I'll wrap up with what you can expect from us in this calendar year. So let's get started with what does success look like? How do you define success? That depends on your goals, which can be different for every agency, of course. For us at DSGa, our mission is to make it easy for Georgians to access state services. And we hope you align with that mission. We can get halfway there, but we need you as partners in delivering great accessible content on state agency sites. And that means empowering and equipping our partners to be successful. And that means you. So when you're empowered, you know the best practices or know where to go for that guidance and as you're working on your site. And that can give you the confidence that you're best serving Georgians with accessible, usable, user-centric content. And when you are equipped, you have the skills to use the robust features in GovHub, and the tools you need are available. So you take that together, being empowered and being equipped, you can recognize what great content is, you can create it, and then you can advocate it within your agency. Another part of being successful is the willingness to always keep learning, right? You've heard today about the power of web forms and how alerts will be changing. Do you feel equipped to use those features? You may not be, and that's okay, right? But ongoing training will help bridge that knowledge gap. It's always important to be aware of how technology evolves and how the guidance for best practices evolve. Now, you may not have the time to keep up with the standards and guidelines, but please depend on us, because as at DSGA learn, we want to share that knowledge with you to empower you to make good decisions. So let's talk about one way we can empower you, and that's with the Digital Academy. This was previously known as the State Certified Content Specialist course. Some of you have taken that. It was an intensive 6 classes meeting weekly over 6 weeks. It's held in person. Some of that won't change, but we're refreshing the content and the delivery. And we're practicing what we preach. We're continually learning, and we want to share these best practices with you. So let's go through a little bit of the course details. The course will cover analytics, accessibility, content strategy, like how to identify your audience, writing for the web, plain language. It teaches you how to really analyze your site content. It will be available in the late summer. We're still developing it. And it's for anyone who works with digital content. That includes a lot of people. That includes business owners, agency leadership, and definitely content managers. In fact, we'll have a track for program and business owners. So for the content managers in the audience today, please encourage your program folks to attend to help you make your job just a little easier. And how will we deliver it? I'll tell you in 5 minutes. First, this sounds familiar because you have taken it already. You may be thinking, why should I take it again? So besides what we've discussed with how GovHub evolves and technology in general evolves, it's always good to just audit your site regularly. And this course will help you make informed decisions on how to improve your content. I'd like to run through a short version of the Digital Academy right now, just to go over a little bit of what you'll learn. In 5 minutes, we'll transform one of the most common types of content on any website into something more usable and accessible. And we'll do that through a use case of the FAQ. It's so common. Almost every site in the whole world has the FAQ. Visitors, they look for this. And, we're not 100% against this, we've made a structured content type, and so we know it has its place. But so often it's used to put things together that don't belong together. It's a dumping ground of information. And we can give visitors a better experience and be more specific than making visitors guess, are we going to address their question, you know? So how do we do that? This Digital Academy will give you the skills you need to analyze this. So let's take a look. At first glance, this FAQ seems to be all about training. You know, there's registering, asking about requirements, and the length of a training class. But before you even start thinking about editing or rearranging this content, we have to do some research. So you'll learn in the Digital Academy how to think through data-driven decisions so that your effort is worth the lift, and you can focus those efforts for the highest impact. You'll learn how to understand analytical data like entries and exits. That's the user journey that a visitor takes through your site. Event tracking on buttons like these accordion expanders. Links that go out, these outbound links to external sites, and how many times it's clicked and what that means. And then also search terms that can show you what your visitors are most likely looking for, and that can help you surface some buried content that should be more findable. Now, you may have learned about personas in the past, those holistic models of who visits your site and their characteristics. Best practices has more recently shown that building archetypes of your visitors that provide insight on their behaviors can better define the approach you take with your site goals. Here you can see the archetypes that our design partner created during research for GovHub about the types of people who visit state agency sites, and whether they're visiting for themselves or on behalf of others, whether they need service immediately or they're looking for information only at that moment. You'll learn how to identify and build archetypes based on the user behavior of your site visitors. You'll definitely learn about digital accessibility. We cannot stress this enough. It's a disservice to the people we serve and to ourselves if the content is just not accessible. So with our FAQ example, this time with the answers expanded, you can see that, click here. You know, you'll learn why we should use a descriptive link instead. Or maybe this car image at the bottom, does it have alt text? What is alt text? And do we need it in this instance? You'll learn how to identify page elements like these and their potential issues. So after research, okay, it's time now to dive into content. This is such a huge topic. It's the focus of half the Digital Academy. We just want to, and you just want to make sure that you're providing the information that your visitors are there for, and that once they arrive on your site, they can find and understand what they need to know. This includes plain language and readability levels, like here with the Hemingway Editor app. I've copied and pasted the text of the FAQ here into this free online app, and it highlights words and phrases that can be improved upon. It also provides a readability score, and we encourage a middle school reading level or lower. So, okay, so your content's edited and accessible. Now it's finally time to create it or edit it. And in most cases, there will be one that fits your content to help you structure and format the display, and also so that search engines can pick up the relevant metadata. If you're looking at this type tray and some of these types may be unfamiliar to you, please sign up for our basic training class or to learn or relearn some of them. So, okay, instead of using the FAQ content type, what can we use that's more appropriate for the content that we have? So each of these questions could work better as, say, the first one, how do I register, as a promo, so that it can be placed in a reusable block for content that is commonly requested and that you want to surface on different pages in your site. Like, how long does each training take? Instead of giving a generic answer of how long it takes, just you could give exact start and end times with an event content type. And the last question, where you need more room to provide explanation, is better served probably in a topic page. So it could look like this. Instead of the FAQ, the promo to register training is over on the right-hand side. There's a list of events, And then you could use a topic page to put information for new content managers. So there's your short version of the Digital Academy, and it's about 5 minutes later. So let me tell you now how you can access the Digital Academy. And that is with our learning management system. We're very excited to grow our training program to meet you where you are and when you're able to. And we want you to devote time, but it doesn't have to be on our time. And why did we make this move? It's for lots of reasons, and it's all in the goal of a better learning experience. That means a better user experience in the CMS, because we don't want your first experience in GovHub to be frustrating, and that's why assessing a level competency serves us all better. It'll have standard, consistently delivered courses. There'll be guided learning paths. We'll recommend additional learning based on personas of you as we add more courses into the catalog. You can learn on your own time through self-service. So learn or relearn whenever you need. Be able to track progress by evaluating your own knowledge gaps. And mentioned earlier today, please give us feedback on where we can help close those gaps. Let me take you through a little tour of this LMS system. When you log in, this is what you'll see. The courses assigned to you will appear on this homepage, and there'll be statistics on the courses that you've taken. As we add more training content, they'll appear and be findable in the course catalog. And so when you want to start a course, click on one of the courses, and this is the details of the course with the agenda and a progress meter. And to start or resume your course is just as easy as clicking on the Start Course button. Here you can track your progress, the courses that you've taken and when you took them. And this screenshot is really just a small sample of all the statistics that are available. So that's our quick tour of the LMS. Let's go through how you'll take that Digital Academy through this LMS. So depending on your role and track, you'll have to complete 5 to 6 courses within the time span of a year. So you can learn some of the content on your own time in the order of classes that's convenient to you, although there will be a few prerequisites. So each class will have a live instructor-led component where you'll meet to discuss handouts and exercises and ask questions. And then after that final class of your track, you'll receive your certification. But besides the Digital Academy, we'll also have a regular monthly training classes ported over into the LMS. And so in fact, starting next week, next Monday, May 3rd, the GovHub Basic class will be available in the LMS. So when you go to request access for a new content manager, they'll be assigned the class, and I'll go into more details in this process in just a little bit. But for existing content managers, you can request access if you'd like to take this basic class as a refresher. We'll have a form on our training page where you can do that. The rest of our regular monthly classes will continue as virtual scheduled classes until we launch them in the LMS. And those classes, they'll include our advanced classes for both GovHub and GovHub Analytics, and our basic GovHub Analytics Site Improve class. We'll also, as time permits, put short courses on new features or features that we think you might need, you could use more instruction on, such as alerts and web forms. So, okay, let me explain a little more about site access for new content managers. The process had been that you or your new content manager on your team opens a support ticket, and then we quickly give them access, and all the while encouraging them to attend the next training class, which could be a few weeks away depending on when that request is made. But starting next week, you'll start the process the same way, okay, by opening a support ticket, and then we'll be very clear on the steps to follow. So you open the support ticket, we'll register and assign the course to the new content manager, and then we'll get notified after they've taken it and passed the learning assessment. And then at that point, we'll create the site account and grant them access. So what does change is that the time for site access for when between the request and when they actually get access depends on the new content manager taking the course, and that they do need to pass the assessment. So yes, we'll be rolling out the GovHub Basic class first. And again, we'll still schedule monthly classes for all the other classes, our regular monthly classes, until we launch those classes in the LMS. So just to be really clear, this is what stays the same, that you when you have a new content manager, you'll still open a ticket with the support desk. You can still register for training events on our site. And the knowledge base it will be there and will continue to be updated. So those instructions are always there for your reference. What is new is that this basic GovUp course will now become on demand. So you don't need to wait until the scheduled class to take it. Your new content manager will be assigned this class, that they'll need to pass the assessment to receive site access. And as we build more instruction in the LMS, there'll be, because it's video based, we'll be able to take that same sort of content and put it in the knowledge base. And so there'll be visual instruction through that avenue too. So let me wrap up. This is what's to come this year. So next week, again, GovHub Basic will be available. In a few months in June, we'll have our GovHub Analytics Basic class. That's the class to learn how to use the Site Improve tool. Much later this summer, we'll have the Digital Academy ready for you to start taking. And then by the end of the year, both of our advanced classes, both GovHub and GovHub Analytics, will be available in the LMS. So please, if you could remember just 3 things from the session today, it would be that new content managers need to pass an assessment to gain site access, that you get to learn on your own time with the new LMS, and just to keep learning by getting certified with the Digital Academy. We're really excited for all these new learning opportunities, and we hope you take advantage of them. Thanks so much for your time.